But I want to start by first saying that this is an incredible book. I had a huge surprise to find as I was reading through it that you write from the point of view of being a Christian. You have some content in here which talks about the dubious title of evangelical these days. So I won't say you're an evangelical. I'll ask you about that in a minute. But I want to set it up with a quote. Let's see, where's this from? Page 84 and 85. You're talking about someone called Nick Olson, who had moved to Lynchburg at 18 years old and never really left. And Lynchburg is Jerry Falwell's college. And you're talking with him, and he runs both hands through his curly black hair. Quote, "That's the hardest part of this," Olson said. "These things we inherit. When it comes to faith and family, we don't want to question them. I could relate, and so too, I told Olson, could many of the Christians I'd met in my journeys. Despite our different labels and traditions, we were crumbling under the weight of a shared spiritual legacy. We were saddled with a heritage that felt unsustainable. We were handed down an identity that no longer fit. What past generations of the American church had given us, quote, these things we inherit, were hard to stomach, and yet somehow even harder to shed." And I have to tell you that in terms of me, a lot in your book jumped out, but you just described me. So let me start personally and just, thank you for diving deeply into something and being so personal about it and exposing yourself by talking about your own faith in a book in a way that really stunned me, because I no longer consider myself not just an evangelical, but in terms that my evangelical background would recognize a Christian. And you are a Christian. And yet, to see your defense of the Christianity I grew up with, that opened doors to people, that took people in, that were kind to them, really moved me. I know this sounds hokey, but I read this thing in real copy with my granddaughter asleep upstairs, and there are some tears on this page. And it really touched me. So that's not much of an interview start for going through a book page at a time, which I've got all the notes on the content. But I just want to tell you that it's been a long time that I've talked to anybody who speaks in an evangelical voice that I recognize from my childhood in terms of the faith I grew up on, that then my family helped destroy by taking us into the politics you described so vividly. So it's kind of personal, but your dad was a pastor, and this book had an effect on me of a kind of a pastoral read. I felt like I was really reintroducing myself to a Christianity I've walked away from, but that I still love. I know that's a very weird way to put it. So I don't know if you have a response to that.
It's not a weird way to put it, Frank, and I'm blessed to know that that you connected with the material in that way, and that you were able to see this for what it was, which was, I think, in some sense, trying to strip away the trappings and the attachments and the modern extracurriculars of Christianity and return to just Christ, and view the politics and the culture wars and everything else through that context of, there's Christianity over here, there's an institution, there are organizations, there are men and women and money and power and all of these things over here. But over here, there's Christ, and if nothing else, I've tried to steer the conversation and steer our eyes, both as believers and as unbelievers, back towards this figure of Jesus, who I believe has something to offer us that we can't find anywhere else. And I believe that too many in the church have erected walls that sort of block out that figure and that obscure him in the eyes of the world. And um, if nothing else, I want you and I want others to be able to see over those walls or see through them or just knock them down altogether and at least have a conversation on the merits of this fascinating figure, Jesus of Nazareth, rather than a conversation around some of the uh, caricatures and the representatives or the purported representatives of him who I fear have done a great disservice to his name.